Alrighty, hello, you guys. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome in those who are tuning in for the first time. Alrighty, so today's conversation, we're gonna get really deep. I have a few things queued up for you guys. I have a few things I want to talk about, and admittedly, this was a completely different direction that I decided to go in. So I've been scrambling for the past 2 hours because I had obviously things in the morning to do, meetings to take. But I wanted to come to you guys with these topics because I think they're very critical and important. We're going to be talking about government warnings about UFO disclosures, pastors apparently reporting being briefed to prepare their congregations on these matters, and then the rising fears with the new Hantavirus, and then the potential health scares and everything like that. I think that we can go over that, especially with all the things that happened a few years ago with, I think I'm able to say it. I'm not really 100% sure, but I believe with COVID, hopefully we don't get struck after that. But if I do, then obviously the virus that we all know of that we went through during the pandemic. And then we're going to be closing out with basically Howard Lutnick's testimony regarding his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. So, this is not like a fear-mongering video. This is a discernment video, and then obviously giving my thoughts and opinions on each matter. But most importantly, circling it back to you guys on what I think is the best mindset to have with these, and the general consensus of what I think people can do or should be doing, or how they should be going about these matters when it comes to like all the, chaos and all the noise regarding these topics. We're going to be separating emotion from reality, propaganda from truth, and then obviously last but not least, panic from preparation. So without further ado, before we get into this video, do remember to subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications, do like the video, and do comment below if any of these specifically stand out. I'm going to be overviewing them, so we're not going to get super deep, but we're going to get deep enough that it's going to be a value add to you guys. So without further ado, let's get into today's topic. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of notes here, a whole bunch of notes on my laptop. And listen, I wanted to start off with what I think is very important and very critical, especially for people of faith, believers, my Christian brothers and sisters out there. Some of you guys may know, some of you guys may not know, about this discussion with pastors preparing their Congress for potential communication or proof of UFOs. Now, first, let's establish who we're talking about, what we're talking about, how this even came about. So I watch Baron Coleman. If you guys haven't checked him out, go check him out. He's been pretty awesome. He's been into this space, but he was reacting and commenting on a video by Perry Stone regarding what I just said. Perry Stone, just to give you guys some context of who he is a well-known Christian evangelist, teacher, and prophecy commentator. He's built a massive following discussing biblical prophecies, spiritual warfare, and then end times theology. Then we have Baron Coleman. Baron Coleman, he's hilarious. He's pretty cool. He's relatively kind of quote unquote new to this space, but he found this new, I guess you can say, I don't want to say traction, I don't want to say fame, I don't know what to call it, but I guess a lot of eyeballs been going to him because he's been playing a massive role in the Charlie Kirk investigation. He is a former lawyer, and his insights are very keen because of his background. Just his personality is very entertaining. He has a way of engaging his audience that I've obviously been watching him consistently for the past, I would say, like 2 weeks now. And he's just been great. And he was actually discussing this on a recent video that he did. I believe it was 2 days ago, Wednesday, I believe. But I think it was important, and I was not aware of this, and I'm happy that he brought forward this topic. So we're going to be reacting to a small portion of what he's saying. He's going to give more insight as to like what actually happened, but I'm going to give my general thoughts on the matter and why I think it's critically important and why I wanted to bring it to you guys. So not only if you guys are tracking, but preparing mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and financially, or with provisions, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to these matters and how to think about them. Before we get right into it, Now, we're alleging here. This is allegedly because we don't know. We weren't there. We couldn't verify. We don't want no problems with people. But now, allegedly, there was a meeting involving pastors being prepared, being told to prepare their congregations for information that may be released publicly regarding extraterrestrial life or unexplained aerial phenomenons. Now, extraterrestrial, I needed to slow that down and say that because my tongue gets a little twisted. But anyway, yeah, so that's what we're going to be reacting to. That's what the portion of that particular show that he did is what we're going to be getting into. So let's go into it now. So I have my timestamp here.
In the midst of all of this news, we get this, and I think it's related. FBI Director Kash Patel confirms UFO files have been delivered for release. Why now? We still don't have the Epstein files. We still don't have the JFK files. We still don't have the RFK files. We don't have the MLK files. We don't know who killed Charlie Kirk, how, and why. Why is it so critical that these UFO files are coming out all of a sudden? What's that all about? So a few words about this.
Okay, before we get into what he says, and I'm sorry for having my leg up, you guys. I was really just into it for a second. So the reason why this is critical, let's just get a grip here. This is the FBI director. You guys just seen it. This is the FBI director saying this. Not some regular Joe Schmo, not a regular person on the internet like myself, blabbing information. This is coming directly from him. And even though a lot of people aren't trusting of him, I'm not very trusting either, just based off of the events that happened these past few months. This is something to be on the lookout for. Now we're going to let Baron Coleman kind of explain what I'm trying to, what was being told and what was being alleged by these pastors. But I think it's very critical for people to be paying attention. So before I give my thoughts, let's hear it out. But I want you guys to really emphasize that this is coming from the FBI director himself. So stop there. Let's continue.
There was a group of pastors. Now, I don't want to overstate what they claimed, but I'm going to play a short video of this group of pastors because a congressman from Missouri called in to talk to them. I know Tim Burchett has been talking about this. This other congressman from Missouri, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He's been talking about it. But I want you to hear their version of meeting together to talk about this and what their plan is to talk about the UFO disclosures that it sounds like are coming. Before we get to the content of what those disclosures might actually be, I want you to hear their version of what they think is necessary to get ready for this. This is from a guy named Perry Stone.
I had a friend that sent me a text message. I was in a meeting, a weekend meeting, preaching Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning. And he said, Perry, can you give me a call? I have some information that has come to my attention. Of course, when a friend of yours does that you know quite well, you have no idea what information they're talking about. And I'm not going to go into great detail, but there were a large number of pastors that had been invited to go to a certain state to hear some men in the United States government and others share with them a concern that they had. And this particular man, and I'll not name him, and then we may end up doing some teachings with him or having an event at his church. He has a great church. But he said, Perry, what they're about to release, from what we're hearing, there's going to be a release concerning aliens and concerning unidentified flying object spacecraft that some of the people who were in the meeting were telling us as pastors, you need to prepare your people and you need to get ready to answer them for what you're about to hear being released. And some of it has to do with crafts that have been discovered that are not allegedly a part of our planet, and the materials they're made of are not a part of our planet. Very strange reptilian-looking creatures and other things that almost sound like something out of a sci-fi movie or an Orson Welles book.
Okay, let's stop right there. That was obviously, when I first listened to it, I was very thrown away. I mean, taken back by what he was saying, because it's surprising. And let's just start with this. Whether you believe in UFOs, aliens, spiritual entities, government psyop, or advanced military technology, let's just start with this. Something important is happening culturally. The government is like slowly normalizing these conversations over the last few years. And I think that's indisputable. I think before, growing up, when I was a kid, early 2000s, like almost like what, like let's just even say just 10 years ago, talking about UFOs or things like that publicly, you would sound crazy. And these things are now, they're congressional hearings. It's something that's being said by the FBI director on what to look out for, what to expect these next few weeks. There's military footage, mainstream media coverage. So that shift alone makes people like pay more attention. But also, for those who are not paying attention, I strongly suggest that you do, because it went from a theory to being nonsensical to, matter of fact, the opposite. It went from being nonsensical to being a theory to now actual government officials speaking and bringing together pastors or people of faith to warn them on preparing their congregations for the information coming out. I don't think that's something that should be taken lightly. And I want to play the part of the people, of the pastors, I believe, who actually attended this and what they have to say. But I wanted to start off by emphasizing the importance of that this is just not a regular sci-fi clickbait conspiracy theory thing. This is actually coming from the people who govern us, from the FBI director who protects our best interests, domestic or international. They're there to protect us. So if they're saying that there's something credible that we should be looking into, that they looked into, I think that we should be paying attention. But let's get into the portion of what these pastors are saying, and then I'll give my general thoughts and consensus. And Baron Coleman does a great job of like basically giving his opinion on why he doesn't trust the government, but on why we should be paying attention to this. Either he actually gives an example of like a scanning that happened with, I believe it was a mummy, and that mummy does not look human. They have like 3 toes and 3 fingers. I forgot. But I would suggest if you want to hear his opinion on it, definitely do go check him out. I listened to it. It was very nice. But I'm trying to emphasize the people who are actually in communication with these pastors, who actually heard directly from people who either attended or the government themselves. I want to get you guys to see that. And I saw it on Baron Coleman's show, so I wanted to show you from there. But let's get into this really quickly.
I think the release is for a particular purpose. I'm going to show you the response of people who were in this meeting, and I tend to agree with their conclusion of why they think this is being released and what they think the result is intended.
You and I recently just had a clandestine meeting in the middle of the woods, Airbnb in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee.
Yep.
And it was a very serious meeting. I mean, we're not having this conversation today just because we're trying to find something to talk about.
Yep.
This was some information that filled in some spaces, filled in some holes with people who know what they're talking about. We had to turn our phones on airplane mode.
We did.
This was a very, I don't want to say confidential. very confidential meeting.
It was.
So we're going to be in a veiled way, because there's some things we can't disclose.
That's right.
That we're going to be sharing some things that we learned in the last 24 hours. So
First of all, we were approached because of both of our programs.
Yes.
And some of the prophetic things I've shared and the reams of information you've put out over the several years. They are gearing us up for the great deception that I believe what they're going to release is going to so fit the narrative. They're going to say Jesus was a spirit, enlightened being that came down, however they frame it with their terminology. He came down and he was one of these star people. And they're going to go down this whole avenue and they're going to try to lay over scripture, all of their narrative, which is really demonic in origin. Can you share some of that?
Yeah, and they're not going to be defamatory. They're not going to attack Christianity. They're going to say, you're close.
You're close. That is where I think this is headed.
Okay. I'm going to pause right there because obviously I don't want to play the entire thing. Again, if you want to hear their perspective, do go on their platforms. Now, there's a lot that could be said there. I think that it's unfathomable, at least to me, that these things are even going on. And I can imagine the regular person, especially Christians out there, who just tend to be like, dramatic of how this may feel. And I don't think that this is something that we should be taking lightly. I'm not here to cause fear, but I'm here to bring this to light. So one, you guys are tracking, but two, that you guys have discernment on what's to come. Like they said, the Bible constantly warns us about deception, confusion, spiritual warfare, and the false signs meant to shake people spiritually. And I'm not saying everything that the government discloses is truthful. But what I'm saying is, if the world is entering a period of uncertainty, confusion, psychological warfare, economic instability, disease outbreak, and spiritual confusion, Christians should be praying more, not less. And I think that we should be listening and warning people of the faith, not of the faith, that what they're sharing is, like they said, could be demonic in nature. And I'm not for or against that theory. Dr. Larry Wilson, I believe his name is, he has his thoughts on this matter, not specifically on that matter, but specifically just he has a few theories that I think are pretty interesting regarding the creation, like what the creation story actually is, and he gets particularly into it. I'm not trying to go down that road right now, but what I'm trying to say to you guys ultimately, so his name is Dr. Larry Olson, and please excuse me if I butchered that. He has his theories, and he's a doctoral theologian on these matters. But we're not trying to get into like the story of creation or anything like that. What we're trying to say is that this is a direct warning about, this is real life. This is what the Bible warns us about. This is what Revelation tells us. This is what the Bible has been sharing with us. And it's important that as Christians, until the second coming, that we ask God to give us eyes to see and ears to listen to the things that are in front of us and take things with a grain of salt, but ultimately not allowing those things to contaminate our faith. Because I think that when this stuff comes out, it's going to challenge a lot of people. It's going to not only challenge them psychologically, but it's going to challenge them spiritually. It's going to challenge their faith. And it's important that we stay strong within the faith, that we don't let what public officials, what the world tells us, and we know, and we read our Bible to know this is what the Bible has been warning us about. And it's really important to me because people are distracted. They're spiritually asleep, emotionally exhausted, or easily manipulated. So this time to strengthen your mind, your health, your discernment, and your relationship with God could not be more critical. And it's really important that we have a voice around that to warn people. I'm not saying what they're sharing isn't true, is it not true? We don't know. It hasn't come out yet. But when it does come out, ask God, give me eyes to see, ears to listen. Give me the discernment I need to know how should I be interpreting this, and not letting it challenge your faith in God and Jesus Christ as a Christian. The main takeaway from all this I want to get at, though, is the biggest danger isn't even necessarily the information itself. The biggest danger is how people will emotionally react to the uncertainty. Fear makes populations controllable. They use fear to control how you view things, how you spend, how you go about things. And it's been historically shown that when people panic, government, corporations, and media organizations and these powerful institutions gain more influence. So don't give away your power by letting them make you feel fearful of this. We are not meant to be a people of fear. God is before us. God will protect us. And as long as we're living righteously, when the second coming comes, we will all go, God willing. And then for those who aren't paying attention to this, who may not have a relationship with God, I really encourage you guys to do your own research. I really encourage you guys to look into having one, because the things that are in the Bible are happening. They're happening now. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not 10 years from now. They're happening today. And if you don't have the discernment to know not only what to look for, but how to navigate things, you're going to get consumed and you're going to be easily manipulated into what these governments, into what these politicians, into what these organizations, these powerful organizations want you to believe in. So don't be psyoped, is what I'm trying to say. I want to go more into this, but until the actual files come out, I think it's important that I show some restraint. So we'll get into that more. I'll keep you guys up to date on the story. Continue to watch Baron Coleman and then other outlets. But another thing that Baron Coleman said, and I think that it's pretty critical that we move into the next segment. I wanted to do a general reaction on the PBD podcast. They reviewed Howard Lutnick's they reviewed the testimony of Howard Lutnick. And even though I didn't preview the whole thing, I just wanted to go into a specific portion of them kind of explaining like what happened and sharing some details on it, and maybe we even go into Vinny or PBD's POV point of view for those who may not know. They also did cover the Hantavirus, which I have some comments there. I think that we can just briefly go over both of them, but my point being of bringing them up is like Baron Coleman said, they're showing us these things and they're not addressing not bigger questions, but also other big questions that the public has questions about. Whether if it's Epstein files, whether if it's JFK files, whether if it's the MLK files. We want to know the truth. We're deserving to know the truth as taxpayers, and it's like you want to give us random information. Cool, we'll take it. But we also want to know the information that we've been asking for, because it's critical, because this is the livelihood and the safety of children with the Epstein files, and then with MLK, JFK. These are people who were assassinated in cold blood because of what the things that they were trying to drive to better society in their respective views, or even the Charlie Kirk investigation. So I think it's important that we do our best, and I'll kind of like minimize it. I'll kind of like I will tie everything together at the end of this, but at the end, like what he's saying is like you're giving us these informations on UFOs, and we'll take it because obviously we want to know the truth. But there's questions at hand that are just equally as important that we're waiting for. And I'm not gonna go on a whole rant. I know I just said a little bit of a lot just now, but let's get into the PBD show and the discussion around the hantavirus in comparison to the coronavirus, COVID. So for those who are unfamiliar, the hantavirus is a real virus primarily spread through rodents. I believe they said this one came from a rat species. Excuse me. Especially exposure to rodent urine, droppings, or saliva. Disgusting. It's not new. It existed for years apparently, but people are still like emotionally scared from COVID. And any conversation involving a virus immediately creates anxiety and speculation, especially because you have Harvard professors, I forgot who the gentleman is, I think they covered on PBD Podcast, saying that basically this requires like a 40-day quarantine. be locked up for 40 days. And after COVID, I don't think anyone is trying to hear that. So I'm going to play 2 clips for you. I'm going to play basically, PBD introducing and what we know about it. And then I'm going to play the Harvard professor's views and thoughts on it as well. So let's start with this one.
Right into it. The first story I want to get into, Rob, is Hantavirus. So Hantavirus, everybody's kind of minding their own business, and then we start seeing these clips again on ships. Hey, this person died, that person died. And then this same guy, Tedros, comes back up, and people are like, wait a minute, that guy's back up again? Yes. What is really the headline of this story? A luxury cruise ship carrying 147 passengers sailing towards Canary Island with a confirmed hantavirus outbreak. On board, 3 dead, 8 cases, and the only known hantavirus strain that spreads person to person. The World Health Organization has deployed an expert on board, shipping 2,500 diagnostic kits to 5 countries, and says this is not the next COVID. They're already saying that up front to not scare the crap out of people. But with no approved vaccine, no approved treatment, with a 38% kill rate, the world is paying attention. And by the way, the states that they're looking at, that they're literally following the people that were tied to it, was Georgia, 2 residents monitored. Arizona, 1 resident flagged by Arizona Department of Health and Services. California, an undisclosed number of residents under CDC coordinated observation. But the CDC stated, again, this is important because we don't want to do fear porn here, and maybe others are going to be doing that. The risk to the American public at this time is extremely low. You know what's the scary part of that sentence? At this time, okay?
I 100% agree with that. That sentence right there, at this time. I can't exactly remember how COVID was. I think I had a different experience with COVID than most people. So my viewpoint is very different. And if you guys want me to get into that, I can get into that in a different video. But just to give you guys a general gist, I was actually considered like an essential worker for around that time. So I was able to like go outside and, interact with, other people who are considered essential workers. Do what you will with that information. But so I got to see COVID and I got to live, thankfully, normal with COVID, but I seen the effects of what COVID has actually done to people, especially young people. And even though we don't have a lot of information surrounding this virus, I did want to bring light into it because I think a lot of people are going to have fears based off of what they experienced during COVID, what the results of COVID was, and how the vaccines affected a lot of different people. And I think people should stay informed without being paranoid, but be very precautious of the information that comes out there. And that's why I wanted to play a small portion of what's actually being said before we dive deeper into this, because I think within the next upcoming days, we'll see more and more information come out. Okay, but one of the biggest things I think that people are afraid of with COVID is that, one, they don't really know if, some people say, oh, the virus was true. Some people say the virus was a psyop to control or test people. There's theories out there. I think those are the 2 main ones. There are probably other ones that I'm not thinking of at the moment. But essentially, those are the biggest things. Either COVID was real, a lot of people died, and I was affected by it, or I know someone is affected by it, or my grandmother died, or all this other stuff. And there's some people that are saying like, no, this was a lie. Like they did that to see if people would comply. And I think both matters are fair, because there's people that did lose grandparents and people from COVID, whether if it was from COVID, whether it's from the vaccine. I think that the numbers are still formulating as we go, because it's still a lot of people affected by the vaccine. And I think it's fair to say that based off of the things that we've heard online and the results of what COVID was like, I can see how people are just saying like, hey, this is a test for compliance. I get that. What I want you guys to understand, that critical thinking does matter. It does matter. You can acknowledge that a virus exists, and you should question the motive of what this is going out to be. But I think that you can prepare whether if it's true or not, without panicking, without living in fear, or without blatantly denying it. If people die because of a virus and it's proven, I obviously don't think that you should take that lightly. But at the same time, I think that just to the average American or the average person, because of everything that we went through with COVID, or what people went through with COVID, they're not really like, they're just like, this is a lie. This is basically like, this is not it. Like, and that's the bigger issue. The bigger issue is trust. A lot of people no longer trust the government, pharmaceutical companies, mainstream media, or public institutions. Whether it justifies it or not, the lack of trust changes how future outbreaks will be received. And I don't think that this is going to be a future outbreak. I don't think that, because of what I've seen with COVID, I think that there was a lot of people that handled that very poorly, from the top of the top all the way down, that it's so hard to decipher what was true and what was not. Right? Like, I'm a regular person. I'm not in these rooms with these government officials, with the pharmaceutical companies, talking to mainstream media or talking to public institutions. I'm not a part of that. I'm just a regular person listening to what's on the news, listening to what people say, listening to other people's opinions. But I think I think the right for people to do what they want with information that's put out there should be respected. And I think a lot of people are just like, I'm not going to be locked up again, because they were, like, everyone pretty much was affected. A lot of people were affected. They lost their homes, they lost their relationships, they lost money, savings, they lost so many different things that it's unfathomable to be like, hey, I survived COVID, I'm going to survive this, my immune system is good. But I get it. Like, I 100% get it. And I think that people should just identify what's good for them, and then not demonize people that don't believe this. Because in all fairness, they may have lost someone, and they may have lost someone maybe for different reasons that you may think, or because they think other things that you may believe. I think it's the same way how we have differences in religious perspectives. I think it's important for people to have the same respect and consideration for people who do not want to get vaccinated or do not want to put something in their body. And I think that we should be hypercritical when more information comes out on how to discern, especially if they're asking us to be locked up again. As someone who was actually outside, because because there was like not that many people working, there was so much, you can say, work that needed to be done, because there were so little people in the workforce around that time, but people were still consuming. So as someone who was actually outside, and to me it was just like, yo, these streets are empty. Like, these streets are empty. I'm going to and from work all the time. And obviously, like, my genetics, my immunity may be different from others. I'm not saying, like, if you feel like you need to wear a mask or you feel like you need to protect yourself, by all means, do what's best for you. But from what I've seen, from me being outside, you guys can see I'm here talking to you guys. I was fine. And one thing that I did to protect myself, not just physically, but like mentally and emotionally, was I took care of my health from before COVID even started and even up to now, when this Hantavirus is coming out, and I will still continue to take care of myself. Strong immune systems matter, but get your sleep, drink water, get proper nutrition, exercise, try to find things that will lower your stress levels, go outside, get some sunlight, and stay in a clean environment. I think it's important that, so like, let's just like hyper focus on the last three. I think people underestimate how much stress can bring down your immune system and affect your actual health. I think people underestimate the need to go outside in sunlight. Like, I remember growing up, and I learned this in school, like when I was in elementary school at that, the reason why you want to go outside is that you want to give your body exposure to different things so your body can build up the immunity to fight back these different things, whether if it's germs, viruses, or anything in that matter. Like if you didn't go see Osmosis Jones, go watch it. If you didn't see the Magic School Bus, go watch it. I know they're kids shows, but they will, and kid movie, but they will teach you a lot. Like if you're inside your house day in and day out, and you're doing things that are stressful, and you're not taking care of yourself, and you're not keeping a clean environment, yes, you are going to be more susceptible to getting these kind of things because you're not taking care of yourself. You're putting yourself in a more vulnerable state. And honestly, when you take care of those things that I just said, you're putting yourself on the list, when you have good sleep, when you have good water intake, when you're eating the right foods, when you're exercising, when you lower your stress levels, when you're outside, those things naturally improve your mental health, your mental state. Because when you feel good, you think clearly, and you're able to move around differently. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's important that people just don't consume fear stuff 24/7 and look at the information that's being presented to you. I think they're emphasizing, and one thing PBD said that was very critical is that he said, "Is not nothing to worry about yet." Yet is the question mark, and that's what people are trying to like really. That what people are scared of is like, yeah, like, okay, right now we're good, but are you going to tell me 2, 3, 4 months down the line, kind of like what happened with COVID, that we're good, and then 2, 3 months later, oh, everyone locked down, all jobs cut off, so on and so forth. I think because of COVID, we have a better mechanism of like moving things around, like obviously remote work, obviously, just taking certain precautions when it comes to just forcing people to be vaccinated. I think those are lessons learned that we should take into consideration, but not shutting down people's lives to the point where they can't not only provide for themselves, but they can't actually live, and which causes them to be more stressful, which if they don't go outside, they can't build immunity towards these quote unquote viruses. And I think people should have their own choice. It should be your choice. It should be your choice on what you want to do, who you want to interact with, how you want to go about things, if you want to take something or not. I think that our First Amendment should be respected. Freedom of choice should be respected when it comes to these things. The same way how they want us to have freedom of choice in other aspects, why can't we have freedom of choice when it comes to these aspects, especially when there was so little information that came out and we were just throwing stuff out there off of the wind? You know what? I can go into a whole tangent with this. The last thing I want you guys to remember is that calm thinkers usually outperform fearful thinkers. So the more you stay calm, the easier this time period, if something again happens like COVID, will be for you because you know how to go about it. You have the experience. And if you don't have the experience because whatever, still staying calm and thinking critically will help you go a long way. So with that being said, let's go into the last thing. I know I kind of went off on a whole tangent with COVID. There's a lot of things that I could say surrounding that. But ultimately, I just want people to like, just take care of yourself. You take care of yourself, the least you have to worry about. Obviously, there's certain genetics that you need to be mindful of. But that's why it's important to know who you are, know your body, take care of your body, know what's for you, how to strengthen your immunity specifically towards you. But those average, like to the average person that has just, regular genetics, you'll be fine. We'll all be fine. But moving on to the last thing I want to talk to you guys about. And I know I said I was going to play the Harvard professor portion, but we already went. We're already like almost like 40 minutes in. So I think it's like really important that we just like move on to the other topic. The Harvard professor essentially was just saying like, hey, this is you need to do 40-day lockdown, which is what caused people to be like, what? Like, I'm not trying to hear that. And I'm not trying to hear that either. Like, life is meant to be lived, not to be held behind your house or held in a cage. But before I get on a whole nother tangent, again, take care of yourself. Let's move on to the next topic. Now, let's close this out with Howard Lutnick's relationship with Howard Lutnick's testimony on his relationship with Epstein. Howard Lutnick is an American business executive and public official. He is the chairman and CEO of financial service firm Cantor Fitzgerald and of the BGC Group. Since 2025, he has served as the 41st U.S. Secretary of Commerce under President Donald Trump. Now, this is very controversial. And even though we're bringing up the topic regarding Howard Lutnick, there's a few things I want to say after, just regarding this entire thing with Jeffrey Epstein. But for years now, the Epstein case has raised massive questions about elite protection, corruption, blackmail networks, intelligence ties, and while so many powerful people appear connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we're going to go into PBD's team. Basically, I don't know if I'm going to see all their reactions, but I just wanted to get into at least what people are saying about what happened with Howard Lutnick. Now, let's get into it.
Read what James Comer said. James Comer hits Lutnick ahead of Epstein testimony, saying he wasn't 100% truthful about the island visit. Is this it, Rob?
Yes, sir.
Go for it.
Secretary Lutnick's credibility undermined here for having said publicly he cut ties in 2005, and the Epstein files show that as recently as 2018 he was in email correspondence with Epstein.
What I've seen, we're going to ask him all these questions, and we'll let the American people judge whether the credibility was damaged or not. At the end of the day, I haven't seen wrongdoing in the email correspondence, but he wasn't 100% truthful with whether he or not he had been on the island. So we'll see, and we'll obviously release the transcripts, and everyone can see for themselves.
Okay, so Rob, what did we...
Okay, so before we continue, I think that there's going to be two Democrats that are going to give their thoughts and opinions. So James, he is the Oversight Committee chairman. He's a Republican. He basically just gave his thoughts on the general testimony. And I think that he was very careful with what he said and how he said it. Why? Who knows? Obviously, he's a chairman, so maybe he just wants to be like very mindful of how he says or what he discloses. And maybe he was fresh out of the testimony, so he maybe want to give it more thought. But he was honest. He was saying like, hey, there are definitely some questionable things regarding his relationship with Epstein, and Lutnick wasn't very forthcoming. But before I actually get into that, I think just to give you guys some backstory. So Howard Lutnick, I just described to you guys who he was. He was basically being questioned because before the Epstein files came out, the ones that we currently have, he was basically saying like he denied his relationship with Epstein, that he only met him one time, and the one time that he met him, he basically discarded him for all eternity because he felt like his vibe was disgusting. Basically, not in exact words, but paraphrasing what he said, he did an interview, and he was just basically saying that him and his wife went to go visit Epstein. They basically went into his house. They saw a massage table in the middle of the dining room and saw that was weird. And they both looked at each other and said, like, he's basically determined that Howard Lutnick will not have any kind of relationship with him. And basically he said that he didn't talk to him or see him or have any kind of communication with him until then. Fast forward to when we get the Epstein files, it came out that he actually visited Jeffrey Epstein on his private island back in 2012. So obviously he was caught red-handed, basically lying. And then today he voluntarily decided to come into a congressional hearing to basically testify about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And Democrats and Republicans, they do have their own opinions. Thomas Massey has been very vocal, and I don't know if the list of who attended this specific testimony hasn't came out, but he's been very vocal about, and he's Republican as well, about Howard Lutnick's needing to step down based off of him having a relationship with Epstein. And essentially we just heard that James Comer basically said hey, even though I didn't see any wrongdoings based off of the email, he did say that the public can determine whether his what he said was questionable, and the transcript is supposed to come out. I was trying to search for it. It hasn't came out just yet. This actually happened on May 6th, so that was 2 days ago. So we'll see there. But I am going to play what the Democratic view is, and I was going to play two of them, but I'm only going to play one because essentially they're basically saying the same thing.
Okay, so Rob, what did we learn from the sit down that Lutnick had? Because we're hearing a lot of different things coming out. Hey, it's not good. We have to do it now. We have to do it with a recording on so we can do all that stuff. Is this Rokana who was in the meeting as well?
It is. This is post the meeting. So the meeting was not filmed, which is typical for, according to James Comer, whenever somebody volunteers to come into a meeting like this, like Howard Lutnick did, they don't film those. Now Democrats are saying that they want a filmed testimony from Lutnick because this one was not filmed.
Let's see it.
Now we know why that interview was not videotaped. If Donald Trump had seen the video transcript, he would have fired Howard Lutnick. It was really embarrassing. He was asked very straightforward questions about whether he regretted misleading the American people. I mean, he said that he would never see Epstein again in 2005. And everyone knows that he took his wife and kids to see Epstein in 2012. And yet it was just contortions and lies and no acknowledgement that he misled the American public. And if you saw the exchanges that my colleagues had with him, you would see he made a farce of the English language. I mean, he was trying to define I
You can pause it right there. You can pause it right there. Rob, what?
Okay, so they're going to get into their individual opinions. And maybe we'll have time to go through that. Maybe we won't. But where do I even start with this? Because I have a lot of thoughts on Epstein in general, as most of you guys may as well. More frustrations than anything, right? And I want to be transparent with you guys, and I don't want to go based off of just a stream of consciousness, but I think we all share the same frustration. If it was the average person in this situation, they would have been convicted of crimes. There would have been major consequences, immediate consequences. But when it seems to be coming from people of influence, people of wealth, politicians, intelligence agencies, media connections, billionaires involved, suddenly accountability is so complicated. Which to the average person, or to at least the person that has regular common sense, you committed a crime, you serve the time. Don't do the crime if you can't serve the time. We've heard that 1,000,001 times. But I think it's important that we calm the emotions down a little bit. We calm the emotions down and not let this darkness consume us, but also not let it go unscathed. I think it's very important that we observe what is going on, right? We observe how these politicians are handling it, how Congress is going about it, the comments on both sides. I don't think, based off of what James Comey said and based off of what Rokana said, in their own individual way, and I think James Comey was a lot more conservative in his words, they're basically saying hey, there were some questionable things that he said that seems like he wasn't completely forthcoming. And I think that's weird. I definitely think that's weird. I'm going to say allegedly here. I don't know the level of involvement or the actual relationship that Howard Lutnick had with Epstein. Obviously, we already know, based off of just not even with the testimony, but just based off what he said in an interview versus what came out in the files, based off of emails, correspondence that he had, that he was not telling the truth. I think that goes without saying. Now, what happened in that testimony, I am curious, and when they come out, I'll read them and do a review on them to see, and give my general thoughts and opinions on it. But I think it's very important that we as Americans, we as tax-paying citizens, do not let this go unscathed. I think it's important that we try to get to the bottom of this, and people are like, Sharon, I'm an average person. These people have been covering up this investigation, been protecting people that were involved, influential or not influential, rich or not rich. And I feel like I just been drove by a loop. And I get that. I'm right there with you. But I think the way that we, quote unquote, fight back is support investigative journalism, support independent people who are driving this story. Don't let it just go by the wayside, and don't get distracted by the noise of what all the different things that we hear on a daily basis. It is important for us to understand that the power that we have is strictly in who we decide to vote. Vote intentionally. Do research on the people that you are electing to be Congress, to be governor, to be senators, to be presidents. Do your research and try to be, I would say, like, I understand we all have our innate biases. We all may like someone, we all may prefer someone's, you know, policies. We all may prefer this, we may prefer that. I get it. And I'm not saying like I'm speaking against the Trump administration or anyone in Congress today. What I'm telling people is that if you're unsatisfied with what your local community, your local government, your state government is doing, educate yourself on the people who are actually running. I think it's so wrong for us, and I get it. Sometimes we don't have much of a choice, but we're just electing basically who we think is the lesser evil. And that's such a low standard. When did we drop our standards? I'm sorry, hearing history and hearing how George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, though they may not have been perfect, how they governed, how they built this incredible nation that we have now, is something to admire. And I don't think that we should carve away their sins or ridicule people for the wrongdoing that they had. But I think it's very important that when it comes to issues that drive you, that are important to you, you should align with a politician, with a person who exemplifies that, and not be afraid to go to these to stay informed by going to these like participating in their campaign, whether you're a spectator, whether you're someone who's supporting, whether you're someone who's donating. I think it's important that you just try to understand who the person is that's going to be representing you, whether in Congress, whether locally, whether presidentially. I think that's really important. And like I said, I'm not speaking bad on the Trump campaign or anything, the administration. I think that there's a lot of back and forth with, Trump's administration is the only administration that decided to release this stuff. I think, and no, none of the Democratic administrations did. None. This has been going on for decades and decades on end, and this just never been uncovered until now. To me, hearing all that, that's just a whole bunch of excuses. I know that there's opportunities on both sides, and I understand that the president has a lot on his hands to uncover. But that's why he has people in place, because he's just one man at the end of the day. He's dealing with a lot of critical things that, like imagine 100 things coming at you at once a day. I get overwhelmed with just the 20 things I have on my to-do list. Imagine him with hundreds and hundreds of not just national things, but foreign things he has to deal with. I get it. But that's why there's certain people in place to ensure that we have transparency, that we have truth. And if we have someone who just blatantly is caught up in a lie, especially a lie that involves the crime of people exploiting children, that should be looked into. That should be taken into consideration. And I have tons of thoughts on this whole Epstein thing, but I wanted to just bring the power back to you guys. Don't let the story die down just because you're getting caught up and get distracted with the noise of social media, the noise of everything that's being thrown at us on a daily basis. Support investigative journalism as best as you can, whether if it's sharing on your social media, whether if it's donating to independent journalists, whether if it's tuning in and listening in to people on YouTube that do this investigative journalists, these investigative journalist things, or just even voting intelligently. Don't just follow the crowd. I respect people just based off like, hey, I respect people that say like, hey, I'm voting Democratic because of these issues. These are the issues that are important to me. This is the person. This is what he represents. This is what he's done. And this is why I'm going with that guy. Or someone who's Republican is saying the same exact thing. Like, hey, these are the policies that they have. This is what I align with. This is what's important to me. And this is why I'm going with this guy. Or we're independent, or I'm a liberal, I'm neutral, whatever the case may be. I respect people who stay informed and make decisions based off of that, because I think it's important to protect and fight for what you believe in and fight for the country that you want to be a part of. And ultimately, the country I want to be a part of is honest, is honorable, protects children and has the best interest of its taxpaying citizens. I think it's very important of its people, of people in general, people who live, breathe, work, pay for the betterment of this country. And I think it's important that we one, raise our standards, raise mentally strong families, and stop blindly worshiping people and power structures. And most importantly, maintain your humanity. Maintain your humanity, understanding what's right and what's wrong, what's important, what's not. And I know I didn't go into like my general opinion on Howard Lutnick. I think it's, why did you lie? Like, come on, dude. Like, why did you lie? Because all that's going to do is make people think that you were involved or you're covering up something. And it'd be so unfortunate if he just interacted with Epstein those 2 times that we know of, and he had nothing to do with anything, and then he gets faulted for it because of a lie, because he wants to sit there and hide something. Like, I understand there's a lot of things that we have done in our past and a lot of people that we may have associated ourselves with that turned out to be not the best people or not the best circumstances. And we wouldn't be the first to like read a chapter out loud, but if we're being asked certain things or blatantly just saying like, hey, I didn't do this, and trying to make yourself seem like all high and mighty, then you know you're going to suffer the consequences of the scrutiny when the lie comes out. And I think it's important for people not to be super hypercritical, because we've all been in that position where we may have lied about something that we weren't proud of. I get it. I can see both sides. But at the end of the day, when you're a public official, when you hold a certain place in society, you need to kind of like back in the day, it wasn't even a question. It was just like, hey, you need to own up to the things that you're doing and what you represent as a person. Even if you're just like a regular, you know, if you're like a janitor, or if you're like, you know, a crossing guard. Like, I remember growing up, people who even worked in what those consider those positions took pride in how they did their work, took pride in who they were. And I think that even more so for people who are influencing other people, but let alone have power to change, to have legislative power to make things happen in a good way that's going to help the country, or in a bad way that's going to help the country. And I think that the best thing that I think Howard Lutnick could do is be honest and to be transparent, especially if you didn't genuinely do anything wrong. Now, if you did something wrong, we can get into that. I'm not saying he did something wrong. I don't know if he did something wrong. We don't know the nature of the relationship. The transcripts haven't came out. When they come out, we'll review them. But I think the best thing that he can do is be honest. Be like, hey, I messed up, guys. I said that I only met him that one time. Technically, it was these times. And if it's more than the 2012, be honest about it. Because the truth will come out. What's done in the dark will come to the light. These are old sayings from way back then, way before I was born, that are just as true today as they were before. Because when it comes to truth, no one is safe. And believe me, there's certain things that if people ask me about, I wouldn't be proud to talk about them. Certain behaviors, certain people that changed up in life, and then they're a particular way that I used to associate myself with, but I didn't because I seen what happened. Yes, be honest about it. Be honest about it. And I know with this situation, it's very it's very shameful to say like, hey, you associated with someone who was already a convicted felon in their respective crime. I get it. But it's even more shameful to double down on the lie and then get caught lying. So let's just be smart, people. Let's be smart about the people who we elect into power. Let's be smart about how we raise our families. And let's be honorable, upstanding people. Let's bring that back to society. Whether you're a regular average person like myself, or whether you're an influential politician, or whether you're a billionaire, honor should be brought back into style. Honesty, transparency, respect, duty, all those things should be brought back into style. And why they went out of style, I do not know. But those are important, critical characteristics that I think that we need to emphasize on, because there's a younger generation that's being raised thinking that the things that they're seeing right now is okay, and blatantly it is not. You should not be getting away with things that you clearly did wrong. If you did the crime, don't be afraid to do the time. And that should be across the board, regardless of your status, regardless of your money. And this is why you have to love at least the foundations of what we were built on and what we stand on. Justice must be done, though the heavens may fall. The Lord Chief Justice said that, and I forgot his exact name, but that is just as true as it was when he said it to now. And I'm not here to judge Lutnick. I think it's a very unfortunate situation to be caught with your pants down like that, metaphorically speaking. And obviously, allegedly, we don't know what goes on. But when the transcripts come out, we will do a review. But that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. And I wanted to end with just saying, like, hey, whether we're talking about UFO disclosures, viruses, government narratives, or elite corruption, the common thread of all this is uncertainty. And then certain times reveal who people really are. So this is the time to think critically, stay spiritually grounded, strengthen your health, protect your peace, and stay close to God. Fear clouds judgment. Discernment sharpens it. And I think moving forward, discernment is going to be what matters more than ever. So I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're so close to 200 subscribers. Please do remember to subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications. Remember, I want to keep doing more and more videos like this. If you guys are enjoying videos like this, comment below. Let me know your thoughts on these topics that I went through. If you guys have anything you want to say, anything you want to add, anything you want me to correct. As I said to you guys before, I'm still learning a lot about this stuff because I spent majority of the years of my life just hyper-focused on work. So I wasn't really kind of caught up with all the things that were going on. I think, and that's another thing before I close out, that sometimes we get caught up in our own lives that we don't see how things can affect others or the things that are going on around us that are creating a bigger problem and ultimately can affect not only our future, but the futures of our children and my future children. So this is why I'm kind of like talking about these things, because I have nieces, I have nephews, I have children in the future that I'm going to be raising, and I want them to be raised in a world that protects them, honors them, but also they have people around that they can actually look up to that are honorable, respected, loving, caring, humble, amazing individuals. So that's just what I want to get at with you guys today. But I actually have another surprise for you guys. Like I said on Wednesday, double feature Friday. We did a double feature on Wednesday. We're doing a double feature today, and I promise we're not going to do a heavy topic. What I had originally in store, I'm going to save for Monday. But today, I'm going to be doing a reaction to another movie trailer who's going to be coming out, highly anticipated. I read the book, and I was so excited to see that this trailer finally dropped. Obviously, we're going to see it in theaters when it comes out, but I'm going to be doing a reaction to this movie. If you want to know what the movie is, stay tuned. I will be dropping it here tonight. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Do remember that we drop content every Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I'll see you guys this Friday for a double feature real soon. So without further ado, I'll see you guys then. Bye.